Hi, the name's Velma Dinkley. And as for long as I've been solving mysteries, people have had the same question. Hey Velma, how did Mystery Incorporated come together? Well, now I'm ready to tell the story behind the best mystery-solving team around. But we weren't always a team. We used to just be a bunch of meddling kids. There was Norville, the annoying nice guy with an annoying crush on me and a massive dog allergy. There was Daphne, the mean girl and #1 queen bee of the school. There was Fred, a spoiled rich jerk with an ego made of tissue paper. And then there was me, the brilliant genius unappreciated in my time. And we all hated each other. Just kidding, can you imagine? Why would I want to solve mysteries with people I didn't even like? We weren't enemies or anything, we just all ran with different crowds. Daphne was a majorly successful YouTuber racking up crazy amounts of views on her makeup tutorials. Norville, aka Shaggy, spent all his time with his dog and best friend Scooby. Fred was a football star with a secret passion for tabletop gaming. And then there was me, spending all my weekends at the library. None of us ever really talked to each other. We didn't have a reason to, until one terrifying mystery brought us all together. It started the night of the school dance, 1 year ago. Normally, we had all our dances in the gym, but for the fall festival Halloween dance, they decided to have the festivities in a barn on the edge of town. I wasn't planning on going, but after my dad encouraged me to put myself out there and try to make new friends, I decided to don my best Sherlock Holmes costume and ride my bike over there. As I biked along the shadowy dirt road, I spotted something strange. There was a fallen tree blocking the road, but no signs of a storm or anything that could have knocked it down. My curiosity got the better of me, and I stopped to take a closer look. On further inspection, the tree looked like it hadn't fallen down, it was cut down. I got out my phone and switched on the flashlight, hoping to pick up any other clues I might have missed. There were tire tracks and skid marks where someone swerved to avoid the fallen tree, but whoever it was, they and their car were long gone. As I was crouched over, inspecting the tire tracks, I suddenly got the distinct feeling that someone was watching me. I spun around, but no one was there. Just the rustling of something or someone moving through the trees away from me. Then, I looked down, and a chill ran down my spine. There at the edge of the woods were unmistakable footprints. I knew I shouldn't follow them, but my curiosity got the better of me. Using the limited light from my phone, I followed the trail of footprints deeper into the woods. I've seen my fair share of scary movies, so I knew better than to call out into the darkness and wait for someone to answer. I just kept following the trail, hoping it might lead me somewhere useful. I was so focused on the footprints that I tripped over something, and that felt like an exposed root. I hit the ground hard, dropping my phone, and felt my glasses fly off. "Jinkies!" I exclaimed, feeling around the forest floor for my glasses. I can't see anything without them. I felt the familiar shape in my hand and scrambled to put them back on so I could make sense of my surroundings. As soon as the lenses lined up with my eyes and the world came back into focus, I wished it hadn't. It wasn't a root that I tripped over. It was a leg, attached to the limp body of a man I'd never seen before. I checked his pulse, but there was no heartbeat. He was dead, and something in my gut told me it wasn't natural causes. I grabbed my phone, ready to dial 911, but the screen was completely shattered. I wouldn't be making any calls with it anytime soon. I ran back to my bike as fast as I could and planned my next move. The closest location with lots of people would be the dance. I decided to pedal there, tell everyone what I'd seen, and hope that they'd believe me. When I reached the barn, I was panicked, out of breath, and my costume was covered in dirt from my fall earlier. "Like, sweet zombie Sherlock Holmes costume, man!" Shaggy gave me a thumbs up from his seat in the corner. He wasn't dressed up at all, but his dog, who he must have snuck into the dance, was wearing a festival orange and black Halloween bandana. I didn't have time to correct him. I had to find the nearest adult and tell them what I'd seen. I scanned the crowd, but all I could see was my costumed classmates dancing like no one was watching. "Shaggy, have you seen a chaperone anywhere? I think the substitute teacher was supposed to be here, but he never showed up, so we just got the party started on our own." Ice-cold dread washed over me as the pieces fell into place. That man from the woods. He must have been the chaperone. Someone knocked down that tree and made sure he never made it to the dance. I couldn't be sure of any kind of motive yet, but I knew I had to get everyone out of here as soon as possible. I pushed through the crowd and climbed up to the DJ booth, which was really more of a microphone and a laptop with a pre-made playlist. I grabbed the microphone and shouted over the music, "Everyone, we need to get out of here now! It's not safe!" Everyone pretty much ignored me, and the ones who didn't booed called me a party pooper, and someone even chucked a cup of punch at my head. "I'm not trying to ruin the party here. I'm trying to keep you alive. I saw a body in the woods on the way here, a dead body." That stunned the room into silence, but before I could say another word, the lights cut out and the music went silent. Someone cut the power. There was no way this was a good sign. And then I saw it. In the doorway of the barn stood a tall, broad figure. In the dim light, I could see sallow green skin, wild hair, and sickly yellow eyes. In a horrible, creaking voice, the figure yelled, "Get out, or you'll never leave this dance alive." Then the figure disappeared into the shadows again. No one moved at first as murmurs swept through the crowd. Most people thought it was a joke, some kind of Halloween prank. But then the lights came back on. Everyone looked down and saw a trail of bloody footprints across the floor. The killer had been among us this whole time. The dance floor erupted into chaos. Everyone shoved each other out of the way in a mad dash for the exit. When the crowd cleared, I was all alone in the barn. Well, almost. Fred and Daphne, dressed as Superman and Wonder Woman, weren't running. They were looking at me. "You're Velma, right?" Daphne asked. "Yeah, that's me. You said you saw something on the way here? Body? You think it was the chaperone?" I nodded. "That creeper got out of here pretty fast. I didn't see where he went." Fred shook his head. "Part of his jacket ripped off, though." Daphne held up a scrap of fabric. "There's powder on it. I think it's sawdust." "Whoa, good eye." I took a closer look at the fabric. "We're not far out from the old sawmill. Think that's where he's been hiding out?" "It's worth a shot." Fred pulled a ring of keys out of his pocket. "I've got my van. What do you say we go check it out?" As the three of us walked towards Fred's van, Shaggy and Scooby came running over. "Like, what happened to the party?" Shaggy asked. "I took Scoob out to do his business, and when I got back, everyone was like, gone. We're tracking a murderer." Fred piped up. "Want to help?" Shaggy's eyes widened. "Well, I'm not going to stay here by myself and wait for him to come back." "The more the merrier." Fred unlocked the van. "You sound way too cheerful for someone tracking a homicidal maniac," Daphne remarked. "Sorry, it's just the most exciting thing that's ever happened to me." And so, with Fred behind the wheel, Daphne in the passenger seat, and me, Shaggy, and Scooby in the back, we headed toward the abandoned sawmill. As we drove, I mulled over the case, and the unanswered questions haunted me. Who or what was that green creature? What did the substitute teacher chaperoning the dance do to put a target on his back? Why target the dance at all? I had a feeling there was answers hidden somewhere back at the barn. "Did you guys see anything suspicious back at the dance? Like the expired chips on the snack table?" "Huh, yeah, they were a little stale, but still pretty good." Shaggy shrugged. I reiterated that I meant something more unusual than that. Something that looked like it didn't belong. This seemed to jog a memory loose for Shaggy. He remembered there being a loose board in the floor of the barn that kept squeaking whenever he stepped on it, and he saw something strange sticking out of it. Something he thought was worth keeping in his pocket. He reached into his pocket and produced an envelope. I took the envelope and opened it. There was photographs inside, showing a figure sneaking into the local bank after hours. These pictures, it's some pretty incriminating stuff. That's when Fred remembered another key fact, that the murdered chaperone had been the substitute teacher for photography class. Looks like he snapped these pictures and stashed them in the barn before the dance. Whoever's in them is probably our killer, but why was he at the bank? That's when Daphne had a brainwave. The chaperone had a second job at the bank. That's where he must have taken them. She remembered him complaining about how little substitute teachers get paid in photography class. I have to admit, it was really nice to have other people to bounce off ideas for once. It helped to have some extra hands putting the puzzle pieces back together. As we pulled up to the sawmill, we could see a shadowy figure moving inside. "Like zoinks!" Shaggy gasped. "That's him!" "If you're up for it, I think I've got a way we can trap him," Fred suggested, pointing to some nearby piles of rope and tools. With our help, Fred set up a complicated series of pulleys and tripwires, all revolving around a net that would fall into the killer when he walked under it. I asked Fred why he had a net, and he said you never know when you might need one. Weird. After the trap was set, we just needed bait. Daphne said she'd do it. She wasn't the president of the drama club for nothing, after all. While Shaggy and Scooby waited in the van to keep lookout, and Fred and I were preparing to spring the trap, Daphne faked a phone call within earshot of the creeper. She pretended to be calling a friend about the incriminating pictures and telling the friend to meet her there soon. We waited for the creeper, but he didn't come. Then suddenly, we heard screaming coming from the van. Shaggy and Scooby came tearing out of the van, with the creeper trailing behind them. He had ignored the bait and snuck up behind them there. As they ran, Daphne ducked out of the way and Shaggy and Scooby led the creeper right into the trap. When Fred gave the signal, we released the net, catching the creeper. "Let's see who you really are." Fred grabbed at the creeper's grotesque face and pulled, the green skin peeling away, revealing an ordinary human face behind it. "Principal Carswell?" We were all shocked. "Education just doesn't pay enough to live on. So I robbed a bank. So I committed murder. I would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for you meddling kids." With his mask on, he looked a lot less monstrous than before. But as this case reminded me, more often than not, monsters just look like ordinary people. As we all piled back into the van and sped off towards the malt shop for some well-deserved burgers and fries, I looked around at our little gang. Fred with his talent for setting traps, Daphne with her keen eye for detail, Shaggy and Scooby with their, well, they had spirit, and you can't beat that. Hey guys, what if we kept solving mysteries together, as a team? Fred loved the idea. He suggested the name Mystery Club for a new group. Shaggy suggested Mystery Buddies. Daphne suggested Mystery Squad. We can figure out a name later. I couldn't help but smile. I had a feeling we would all be working together for a long, long time.